Welcome to another edition of Egberto Off The Record. I'm here with Dr. David Levitt. Dr. David Levitt is a lifelong activist, computer and media scientist. He has a doctorate from MIT in artificial intelligence and a BS from Yale. He's been active online and at Netroots Nation promoting citizen candidates since 2011 and was on the 2012 U.S. Senate ballot to unseat war profiteer Dianne Feinstein. Today, he'll discuss the skyrocketing grassroots movement to enforce state laws against kidnapping and warrantless detention, laws now being broken daily by federal agents engaged in widespread organized crime, and how identifying and prosecuting these agents can neutralize the mob bosses behind them. He'll discuss the new Make Kidnapping Illegal Substack and how you can get involved. First of all, David, it's my honor to have you here. We go back a long time, even though we haven't been in touch for some time. How are you doing today?
Just fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in California, and there's a lot of terrifying stuff happening, but there's also an incredible amount of grassroots activity that you can find without a lot of difficulty that makes me very hopeful.
This morning I sent out one of my newsletters, and the newsletter was really a newsletter, I would say, of hope. One of the things I wanted to say in the newsletter is we have lost faith in our mainstream media based on how they now report. And it's on us now. It's on us, the independent media. It is on us, those of you that are listening to us right now, to get these messages across, to promote these messages, to be, back at in the Coffee Party days when I was on the board of Coffee Party, we had a department called Be the Media. Be involved. You are the ones that are going to make sure that we keep this democracy. The others, not. But anyway, David, welcome to Egberto Off The Record. Thank you for being here, first of all. I want to start our discussion with what you're seeing on the streets in not only LA. LA, it was very active in LA, of course, because LA is a communications capital of the world, the media capital of the world. But this is something happening in little towns, in Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, everywhere. We have these people kidnapping folks in front of our eyes. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
It's funny, the subset is called Make Kidnapping Illegal, and it's partly an attention getter and an ironic joke because, of course, kidnapping is already illegal under federal law and under state law in every state. But we have a unique new kind of organized crime directed by the federal government, the White House, the Attorney General, and it's as if none of these kidnappers, people grabbing people without warrants and even wearing masks, claiming and not always being federal law enforcement, and none of them is getting arrested. It's, again, the state attorney generals. I'm sure some of them are afraid of being hurt by the federal government, but they're also just caught up short, and they're really, half of them have a dozen lawsuits already against the federal government. So this particular issue of making sure that people who kidnap other Americans get prosecuted is not being addressed. And so we're just saying, everybody, you can find, so let me tell you something about how this movement has grown just in the last month. A month ago, another smart Substacker named Marcus Tisdale put up a video of someone following an ICE van.
I remember that. Yes.
Yes, you saw that?
Yeah.
And it was inspiring because he didn't show fear, and and they start tapping on his window, and they're armed, and they've got half of their face covered, and they say, open up, and they say, open your window, and he says, no. And he's like a lot of what I've learned about since then, the First Amendment auditors and Fourth Amendment auditors, people who understand their rights and want the people who would stop them from doing what they're doing to understand their rights. So he says no, and they start asking questions, and they start intimidating the heck out of them. And it's one with a happy ending because another federal agent shows up who calls himself a peace officer and says, "What's the problem?" And then he says, "These I'm trying to find out why these people are kidnapping my neighbors, and they're scaring me." And that's the first moment that you realize how terrifying horrifying it is to stand up for your rights. And the peace officer, he doesn't really, it's within his rights to say, pull down your darn mask so everybody knows you're not a criminal and send them packing. But he's just one and there's a half dozen of them. So he just gets rid of them. And it's relief because not every video has a happy ending, but a lot of them do. And let me give one other example. And you can see both of these in the first post at Make Kidnapping Illegal, which is also at makekidnappingillegal.org. There's a woman, it looks like she's at her workplace, a Hispanic woman, and these guys start marching in with their masks and telling people what to do. She says, "No, you're not doing this." And she said, "Why don't you show me? That's not a badge." And she squints at the guy, and it must be from the Halloween store. She says, "Holy cow, you're not even ICE." And it's gotten to the point where it's so normalized for people to, in masks, not bothering, never mind not showing a warrant, not showing any ID whatsoever, think that they can walk in and grab people. Well, that's an open invitation to real kidnappers. And as the Attorney General of Arizona says, carjackers, people are using this as a technique now to just commit crimes who aren't even federal agents or approved by ICE or anything to do with ICE. It's just the wrong thing is being normalized. But this brave woman doesn't cooperate with these guys, makes sure they're being filmed every second, and is very happy by the end of it if they leave with nothing, with no people, all the things that they thought that they were going to do, they don't happen because she stood up. And so I post Tisdale's video, right, on my Facebook account. It vanishes instantly. And I learned that it's been tagged as spam. This is like early July. It's been tagged as spam and it's gone. I say, well, that looks like an error. It's certainly not spam. I post it again and it gets the same tag back immediately. It's off of Facebook. It's banned on Facebook. I'm like, that's really interesting. Facebook does not think these videos are real or in their interest, or algorithm or a human is saying that's spam. That seems so wrong. And I investigate. Eventually I learn I type post it as a comment, then it doesn't get deleted the way it would when it's a post. And I'm starting to figure out how has Facebook already been shut down as a way for law-abiding citizens to protect themselves. And it's already a little scary. Well, cut to the chase. A couple of weeks later, not only can I post that video anywhere I want as the lead, but I'm seeing reels and reels of Facebook videos and Instagram and all of these things. Here's what happened. Facebook's algorithm realized that everybody loves heroes and fighting the man so much that these are suddenly the most popular videos on Facebook, and they can make money. I even saw something I'd never seen before today, something with the Meta brand on it called Resist. It says, for $2.99, you can get videos like these. Facebook realized, or maybe it wasn't a human, maybe we should thank AI, but Facebook's algorithm realized that this is going to be a way that Facebook makes money. And more importantly, it gets engagement. You know, I've seen enough cat videos. I want to see something that matters in my life. And boy, and now I was really ready to say I'm quitting Facebook and just going on Substack. But now Facebook is in the resistance in a funny way.
No, isn't it ironic that based on what you've seen and the analysis of when they started reposting or allowing those things to be posted, that only when it seems to have financial traction that it makes it doesn't say a whole lot of good things about the country. Now, one of the things that we have, and I wrote this in my Substack this morning before I sent it out, is that we're seeing these masked people throughout LA and other places arresting people. But what we're also seeing is that Donald Trump trying to say he's going to extend this throughout the country. I'm glad that you have whoever put the Substack together that is trying to get people engaged in how to save your neighbors, how to protect your neighbors as these masked thugs come in your midst. I'm glad to see that there's a site and other sites ready to help them. But I think we also have to look at the picture as a bigger picture. And that bigger picture is this current administration wants to normalize that people can be pulled off the streets from masked guys, because I think the ulterior motive comes later. And once I use an example of there are certain poisons, folks, not all. There are certain poisons that you can give small dosage and continue to increase it to build a person's resistant to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're doing right now. People are seeing this happen and they want to normalize it. Sites that you're talking about try to denormalize it. No, this isn't normal. And any day too many of us start accepting this as normal, then it becomes normal.
Yes.
And then when the ulterior motives are being realized, you can see where the genesis is. And that is how it started.
Yes, exactly. Normalizing this stuff is the agenda. And it's a little weird because a lot of what I've been, especially since the first court ruling against the LA shakedowns, people, it's exhilarating to see huge mobs of people chasing ICE out of town, and they're scared, and they're getting in their vans. Now they're hiding in Penske vans because they know that if anybody sees them in what looks like but it's not covered enough, and the normalization process involves you not seeing people fight back on the news.
Well, David, the reason it's not covered a lot is look at the amount of people in these concentration camps into what they call Alligator Alley, in what they have in Fort Hood, Texas, and these other places where they're holding people. There are a whole lot of people there. But if you watch TV today on mainstream media, you don't see this. But if you go on to Substack, on your Substack, other people's Substacks, etc., you start to see, my God, these guys are out there day in and day out, raiding Home Depots, raiding all these other places. We have to be engaged to actually get that stopped. Yes, because the next step, go ahead.
Well, yeah. And, the average person does go to Home Depot and they're seeing their glimpses of this. So, it's great. It's also happening in public schools. If you went to make kidnapping illegal Substack/notes, you'll see a school in Massachusetts where all of the kids are out there demonstrating. Instead of going to class, they're demonstrating to make sure their classmate doesn't continue to be detained. And it's a very popular movement, but as you said, except for independent media, it's a somewhat unreported movement so far.
We did the Kings of the No Kings movement here in my town. The largest group of people we could put together is 50 to 60 people. We actually got in my little area here 700 people. More than 10 times as many. And you know how much of it got reported here in my town? Zero. Here we have this big protest and zero got reported about it occurring in my town, a very conservative area that one would never believe an action like this would have been reported. We also have throughout, and one of the good things I like about what Rachel is doing is if she would have multi-screen.
Which Rachel Maddow?
Rachel Maddow.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel Maddow would have these multi-screens. The only reporter I see on TV with multi-screens, and as she's talking, she's flashing all these protest movements around the country because the mainstream media, even though MSNBC is mainstream, her program takes latitudes that others are fearful of taking because she doesn't give a damn. In her case, if she's thrown off MSNBC, she have other places to go, including her own domain.
That's great to hear because I haven't depended on an MSNBC lately. I actually do the 10 minutes a day eyedropper and then a preview, and then if I really need to see more, I switch browsers. I confess, but because it was too much the mainstream and not enough the real grassroots. But it's great to hear that Rachel's doing that, and they should have a whole network like that.
Well, we don't have a network, but they're independent people within networks, and I've spoken to a few of them off the record, where all they can do is push the boundaries. They can't cross the boundaries, lest what happened to Joanne Reed, lest what happened to Katie Fang, lest what happened to a whole lot of these becomes the reality.
At his best, I always loved Chris Hayes. I got hooked on him when he was a Weekend guy, and he earned my trust, but he doesn't often cross that. He can't. They can't. Oh, it's maddening, because if he's the only one you can trust and he can't, then it is being normalized.
Yeah, let me give you the trustworthy people, and what you do is let me tell you what I do as an independent journalist, because we don't have all the funds and capital that these guys have. We don't. But what's interesting is if you listen to a few folks like, again, Chris Hayes, if you also listen to Ali Velshi,
yes,
they, we know Zateo got formed because, what's his name, got thrown off as well. Mehdi Assad got thrown off. But here's the thing. If you listen to Ali Velshi and Chris Hayes and sometimes Rachel Amado, the not said but shown gives you the off ramp to use their product as a means to further the message to our constituents, the independent media constituency.
Yes. And of course, really what I watch, I rarely miss every day, is Democracy Now! And Amy Goodman. I was so proud when she shouted you out.
Yeah, I mean, I love Amy. I don't know if you saw, I also gave her an extensive interview that afternoon.
Oh, I still have to watch that, actually.
Yeah, so it's posted on my Substack, on the Egberto Off The Record post that on Substack, because she gave a pretty darn good interview where she also brought in what's going on in Gaza, which we all know it's one of the most recent horrendous genocides that we have.
Yes, yes. And I've written about that at I have a Substack called Revealed in Plain Sight, and I haven't posted that much on it, but one of the first posts is Judaism and its opposite, Zionism. Because it's funny, I didn't think of myself, I thought of myself as more of an atheist than a Jew, even though culturally in some ways I'm Jewish and my father was born a Jew. I'm from a family so mixed it was illegal in 28 states when I was born, or rather when my parents married. But I realized hearing Naomi Klein speak, basically this university movement for Gaza started in downtown New York, and it really started as a Passover Seder by Naomi Klein, explaining that the exact thing that Moses was fighting against, greed, self-stealing, the golden calf, they called it. That's what Moses came down and says, no, don't lie, don't covet your neighbor's property, don't lie about them, don't kill. All of these things are violations of Judaism. This Zionism is the opposite of Judaism. And I lay it out briefly, and it was so heartening by the end of the piece, which was hard to write, and people in my Jews in my family were freaking out, but it's true. And to see all of the people in mass saying, not in our name, saying this is, how did, what was it? Caitlin, do you know Caitlin Johnstone?
Yeah, no, I don't know her.
As the way she put it, nothing that Stormfront and the Nazis could said about the Jews is as dangerous and anti-Semitic as killing thousands of children under a Star of David every day.
It's amazing. And by the way, for people who don't know, I actually believe Palestinians are Semitic as well. Let's remember that.
Let's also remember that. But yes, so I'll just say, yes, the real Jews, the Bernie Sanders, the John Ossoffs, they oppose that stuff. Oh, gosh, I'm getting a 10% battery warning. That's why I was moving my screen around trying to keep myself plugged in. So I may have to adjust myself in a minute. But suffice to say, you can tell whether someone, who runs the Zionism project in the United States? A guy who's never been a Jew and never will be, named Mike Huckabee.
His daughter just bought Israeli bonds in the order of $200-something million, even as the constituents in Arkansas don't have good roads to drive on. Think about that.
Yes. So those are the evil people Jews who should be smarter, line up behind and pretend that Zionism is Judaism. It's not. It's practically the opposite.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, we said we were going to talk other subjects other than the kidnapping, and now we got into the subject with what Israel is doing in Gaza. One of the things that aren't reported frequently is that a lot of this anti-Israel or anti movement against the IDF and Netanyahu is actually led by Jews.
Exactly.
Well-known Jews. And if you watch the mainstream media, you wouldn't have a clue. If you watch El Señor Schumer, who is Jewish and
traitor to Judaism.
He's a traitor to Judaism. And if you also watch our friend Hakeem Jeffries, who is owned and paid for by AIPAC,
it's so sad. It's so corrupt.
You see that, my God, we have to start getting some honesty and some morality in the way we promote what we do.
And frankly, I'll say that's why I only recently started calling myself a Jew. It's because the traitors and the greedy, immoral Jews have dominated it to where if they're the only ones speaking up, then it is anti-Semitism. It is the worst. It's the end of the faith. So the Jews like Bernie, like Ossoff, like
yourself.
Yes, we have to be louder than the bigots.
Exactly right. Anyway, let's talk a little bit. Let's transition since we got into New York. Let's talk about Zohran Mamdani.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't be a prouder New Yorker. My dad was a cabbie. He never turned down a fare. He knew every street in New York City. He was a union organizer for the taxi owners because he had a medallion. My mother was an actress, and her actor friends.
Your dad had a medallion?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. His father
he used to be a millionaire now because he probably got it when you could afford a medallion.
And you can bet it appreciated faster than New York real estate the whole time he owned it. It was a dream. It was mobile real estate. If real estate is location, 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 well, he was moving around New York. It was everywhere, right? But he was also an activist, and so is my mom. If there's time, I'll tell you a very proud story about her rescuing civil rights activists in the 60s. But so reputation. So yes, New York Jews, New York mixed families. That's my background. And New York activists, people. My mother, as an actress, had many friends who were blacklisted in those days. And isn't it crazy that the same evil jerk that ran Joe McCarthy's blacklists was Donald Trump's mentor, Roy Cohn. And if you see the movie The Apprentice, you can see his arc, right? It's the same evil jerks. But New Yorkers, New Yorkers are proud. They're not bigots. They're not right wingers. And so I'm the only person who wasn't surprised when Mamdani swept the election. I was like, yes. And I'll say something about the Midwest in a minute, but it's so great to finally have someone. Back when Bernie Sanders called himself a democratic socialist, all of the cowards and wimps of the centrist, we have to meet right-wingers halfway divisions of the Democratic Party said that's the end of Bernie. But the people, and let me just say it, even in Iowa, even in New Hampshire, in the primary in 2020, they all voted for a democratic socialist. He got the most votes, and the cowardly Democratic Party apparatchiks crapped their pants and said, "Oh my God, we've got to pull somebody. Let's pull Joe Biden out of his crypt and make sure that Bernie doesn't win any more primaries, and let's get everyone else to drop out." Kind of like they're trying to do with Mamdani. Let's get everybody to drop out and take someone who won't even make it to the end of his first term, rather than have the popular Democratic Socialist win the Democratic.
But here's the funny part: they don't understand math. That would have applied if Mamdani was not at over 50%.
Exactly, yes.
But Mamdani is over 50%, so the goose is cooked. Let me tell you something about that about Bernie, and that at that point I became very upset with the Democratic Party. I flew to Las Vegas, and to New Mexico. Actually, was it New Mexico? No, I think it was Arizona. When they really kicked him out of there, I flew out there, and we went and campaigned. I was in Latino neighborhoods, speaking Spanish, getting people to go out to vote. And when I tell you the landslide that Bernie had in Nevada, and we sat down at a bar that night and we were rejoicing. Bernie was on the launch pad to become the Democratic nominee. And what we saw occurred with Kamala Harris, with what's the name of, with all of them coalescing and saying we got to all stand behind Joe Biden. And after standing behind Joe Biden, come and say in South Carolina, when Clyburn came out and anointed him. I immediately said, well, you know what? First of all, I don't know if we're going to win because, again, Joe Biden, I wasn't sure it's going to win, but again, he did. The thing about it is they're trying to do the same thing with Miami, and they haven't learned their lesson.
And as you say, the math doesn't work for them.
The math doesn't work for them, nor is it going to work for them. So anyhow, for those of you that
stronger and stronger, I love the hilarious thing where they say, "Oh, he's making too much money now; he has to leave his apartment." I mean, that's how desperate can you be? And then he winds up idiotically saying, "Well, unless you're spending 30% of your rent of your income on rent, you don't deserve that apartment." And all of his neighbors and everyone in New York says, "You're actually trying to drive the middle class out of New York City? I didn't think you could poll any lower, but you're gonna tomorrow."
Yes, exactly right. So now before we close this out, David, give me your thoughts on. There are three things I want your thoughts on. One, what you think about 2026? Do you think we're on the right path for 2026? Two, is Donald Trump gonna give in, or is he trying for 2028? I have some comments on that at the end. And thirdly, what you have to say about the militarization of America.
So the first one is the happiest one. 1,000 candidates came out of the last Democratic Socialist thing celebrating Mamdani's win, and people finally realized that the S word is not only not disqualifying, it's the word that says I'm for the people, I'm for affordability, and guess what? People fantasize, right-leaning Democrats and Republicans fantasize that this only is going to work in New York or urban areas. You know what? People in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Missouri, they all want things to be affordable. It's actually what Trump ran on. The only reason people fought, they want inflation down, they want rents down, and they want exactly everything Mamdani's having. But also, he's got the kryptonite of, he doesn't say, "I'm sorry that you accuse me of being an anti-Semite. Let me retract half of what I just said." He's never going to do that. And people realize that you can win without bowing to AI PAC, and you don't need Act Blue even, and you don't need Hakeem Jeffries, and you don't need Chuck Schumer. In fact, rejecting all of those weak idiots makes you stronger. So there's going to be 1,000 people benefiting from that movement in every state, and in both rural and urban. So that was the first question.
Your thoughts on Donald Trump and the election of 2026, the 2026.
So in 2026, to the degree
midterm.
Yeah, midterm. Low. I mean, poor Hakeem and Chuck should just resign because they really are doing nothing but weakening the party.
Exactly.
But everybody else is, Elizabeth Warren's, all of the people who were for the working people and the 99% are gradually coalescing around this new message that's no longer terrifying. So it's going to be in my lifetime, it's going to be the first right. People don't even use the word left or socialist for the last 50 years. People like Pelosi have been in the shadow of Joe McCarthy this whole time.
Right.
And it's, let's meet white supremacists halfway. I know we can do it. All we have to do is be a little more like Republicans and we'll get more votes. They always lose trying that.
Why go with a little bit of Republican when you can get the real thing?
Right. So
I think the party proper will simply disregard Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and move on. If the party wants to go forward, they'll just ignore those two leaders, move on, and when it's time to elect a speaker, pick one appropriately. I don't think he's a shoo-in anymore.
No, they've never been leaders, and now they're exposed in a way that's really satisfying.
Yeah. Now, and last one, militarization of America.
This is why make kidnapping illegal is at the top of my list, because it's going to happen if we let it happen. And every attorney general, Bonta has not been active. That's a whole thing. There's this thing called RICO, which Fannie Willis is the only one who's pulled the trigger on, but it can be done in 33 states. And it has to be. This is organized crime. These people are guilty of, and it's not even in the closet is the thing. It's not a hard case to prove. They're guilty of extortion. It's there on the CBS late night schedule. They're guilty of bribery, extortion, and when they arrest a whole Home Depot of brown-skinned people, and only 10% of them have any criminal record. It's really terrorism. They're trying to terrorize the public in Southern California to not stand up to thugs. And terrorism is one of the things you can charge with people under RICO. Bonta in California should be doing it, and we should be banging on his door to say, do you really think kidnapping is illegal is legal in California? Or are you going to prosecute extortion, bribery? I have a list in front of me. It's like they're trying to hit every single RICO charge that you can make. Terrorism, I mean, even when they started taking the National Guard away from California that was supposed to be preparing for fire season, it's like, yeah, let's add arson.
Yeah,
So
it's
these people
ridiculous.
are criminals on the level of Al Capone. They have to be called out as such by the attorneys general. And that means that first has to be done by the people, because the attorneys general are like, oh no, what will the police union say if we say, these masked so-called police agents have to be held accountable? So the people have to speak up first, and they are speaking up. But then the attorney generals have to say, yeah, Fannie Willis can't be the only person with a sack in the prosecutor's office. It's got to be Bonta. It's got to be people in my county, and they've got to say, guess what? Kidnapping is illegal in California, and we're doing something about it.
Now, to close, I want to read a piece of the newsletter that I sent out today. I want people to read between the lines. I want people to realize that all of this that we've been discussing, the kidnappings, the trying to get Americans not to see things the way that they are, trying to normalize evil, it has a purpose. And I want you to check this out. I sent this out a few hours ago. The mainstream media is reactive and, of course, many times compromised because of their advertisers. I must be reactive. We all must be reactive. Let me give one example. The mainstream media and their pundits continue to provide the cabal that controls Trump and his sycophants. I give them either a pass or they dismiss their actions with the less seriousness than they should. Let me walk you through a scenario we'd better be exploring. Trump extorted a luxury Boeing 747 from the Qataris. The Air Force is using funds allocated initially for the Sentinel Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Modernization Program to specifically for the year of 2024 to retrofit the Qatari jet, which could take up to the end of the second term of Donald Trump. The new huge $200 million White House ballroom will not be completed until near the end of Trump's second term. The president muses with President Zelensky about holding no elections in the event of war. Trump tested militarizing Los Angeles. He is now doing the same in D.C., and he has stated that it is coming to other cities. Attorney General Pam Bondi terminated the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force and left the head of the Election Threats Task Force unfilled. These bodies were vital for identifying and responding to foreign threats, including disinformation and cyber operations targeting U.S. elections. FEMA reclassified or halted grants supported for programs countering domestic violent extremism, such as white supremacist and far-right threats, redirecting focus to soft target protections, cybersecurity, and border control. And lastly but not least, there's a lot more. The ICE infrastructure exceeds that of all but 3 military budgets around the world. Their concentration camps and kidnapping of immigrants and citizens are being normalized. What am I saying? Americans are getting used to these tactics. There is a long-standing myth and some historical precedent of people attempting to build tolerance to poisons by ingesting them in small doses over time. While this may work in limited ways for specific toxins, for fast-acting poisons like cyanide, it is neither effective nor safe, as the lethal dose is only slightly higher than so-called training dose. Trump is giving us the training dose, and most of the mainstream media are derelict in reporting that reality. When the training dose is tantamount to cyanide, it will be too late. So the work that you see us doing here, the work that you see our brother, Dr. David Levitt is working on, trying to get people aware of the things that we must be cognizant of. It is imperative that we get involved in many ways. We're imperative in get involved in sharing the message, imperative in get involved in supporting those of us who are putting out the message, and imperative in being a part of the warriors out there that are making the change. My dear brother, Dr. David Levitt, give me a last word.
Thank you. This is what independent media is so important in all of this, but it's really it's so encouraging to see people. They see people who they don't know getting abducted, and they say detained, and they say, "Is this a kidnapping?" And they call 911. They're good citizens, normalizing bad citizens, turning us all into what we used to call good Germans. That's the agenda of this administration, but people aren't on board with it. The people are going out in mass fighting it and looking for the right ways to fight it with very little political leadership. And we have to turn it around so that the so-called political leaders say, hey, if I ever want to be reelected or respected, I've got to stand up against the kidnappers, to stand up against mass murder, and to stand up for people for the powerless people that they're trying to target in the first wave of this fascism. And what's happening is people are getting educated to fascism and brutality in a way that's very healthy. But your point is absolutely correct. It must not be normalized. We have to be standing up and fighting it every step of the way.
Dr. David Levitt, it has been my pleasure. It has been my honor to have you. We go back a long time, the Netroots days when we were taking over the world. Thank you so kindly for having been on Egberto Off The Record.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.